6 months without a grocery store. That is the challenge that I am up to right now. And I am almost halfway there. We are almost at the 3-month mark. This marks 11 weeks right now. And it's been growing pretty well. However, I am going to have to leave this challenge early. I'm going to get to that soon, but first I'm going to explain how this week has gone, how the garden's doing, and what issues I'm running into and things like that first. So last week I mentioned that I wanted to go more plant-based, do more plant-based meals because my meat supply is running on the lower side. So I do want to push more of a focus on that. My one challenge with that is that my kids are rather picky when it comes to beans and rice meals. My husband and I love beans and rice. I really enjoy it, but my kids are a different story. So I've got a lasagna recipe that they enjoy. They love taco soup and they love quesadillas or bean tacos, things like that. Other than that, they're kind of hard customers. So I know you guys have sent in some recipes and I'm really wanting to try them. I do need to go through the comments and write them all down so that I can have a list of them to try. I know recently someone, I believe it was Janice, left me a recipe for lettuce soup. I will double check that. I'm not sure. I think it was Janice, but I'm not sure. And then somebody also left me a lentil tomato soup recipe. So I am going to do them. It is really hot out right now though. It's like 31 to 34 degrees for the last couple of weeks. No rain, no reprieve. So making soup is not really where I'm at right now. Those will more than likely be into September, October where I'll make those. Maybe the lettuce soup. We'll see. But I would love if you guys could leave me some recipes, maybe some beans and rice recipes that have been hits with kids, or like plant-based recipes that have been hits with kids that you guys really enjoy. I would love to try some different ones and just broaden my scope here with my kiddos and hopefully get them to enjoy a little bit more plant-based meals. So this week has been really busy. I have been in the kitchen doing a lot of preserving. I was doing that last week too. I've done a bunch of peaches. Our peach tree, if you've not seen any previous videos to this, our peach tree did amazing for us this year. Even though the squirrels were on it, we got a lot of peaches in, which was really great. So I've been busy preserving those in a lot of different ways. I've done jarred peaches, I have done peach jam, and then I've also done some dehydrated peaches and peach roll-ups. And coming forward, I'm also planning on starting a Christmas present for some relatives. We don't do a lot of alcohol, but I know it's enjoyed a lot at Christmas time with the family, so we are going to do some peach brandy. So I've done this in the past with gin. We used to have a crabapple tree, neighbors down the road. It was actually a retirement home, had this crabapple tree, and I would go and collect all the crab apples and I would do a bunch of things with them. But one of them was doing honey and crabapple gin. And I would just let this sit until Christmas time. And it was really, really good. And it makes great gifts. So this was my plan with the peaches this year, was to use up some of the smaller peaches, the ones that got picked a little too early. And so they're a little on the smaller side. They're not great just for fresh eating. So I figured I would put those in some brandy and just make a nice flavored brandy for some Christmas gifts. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with the last of that, as well as some other things. I've baked some focaccia bread recently with it, and I'm going to today do up some popsicles. You guys will see that in the next video. Now, if you have not been following this journey, please make sure you go back into the playlist and catch on up with all of the weeks of what I've been doing, what I've been missing out on, all of that. And you'll also find out that I do allow myself to go to the store for essentials. So for me, I did end up having to go to the store for essentials this week. And one of those essentials, actually two of those essentials, were for canning. So I realized I did not have a good enough stockpile for my canning while I'm doing all my canning and preserving all of this food for later. I don't have the appropriate ingredients to get through that. So I was actually doing pickles and I ran out of vinegar. So, oh my goodness, right? Like, how did I not have enough vinegar when I was doing pickles? So I had to run out and get vinegar and sugar. I ran out of sugar, my goodness. So actually the first time I ran out of sugar, I went to the store and the store didn't have any sugar, which is why I always say you have to have a stockpile, right? And here I am with no stockpile of sugar. So I bought a few. Just to get me through, because that was silly. So I did run to the store. Those were the two essentials that I bought. So the other thing going on this week, and I explained this last week, was that my daughter was going in for dental surgery. So what happened was that she and her brother were playing and roughhousing the way kids do. Anyways, heads hit and her tooth chipped. And her tooth chipped right down to the root. So it was unfortunate, and it's right in the front, the poor girl, and it got infected. So when it gets infected, the dentist is like, well, we kind of have to look after this, otherwise it's going to continue to get infected, and then that's constant antibiotic use, and that's not something we want. So long story short, she was in to get a root canal, had to be put under, and that was quite the day. It was traumatic for both her and I. I don't know if you have ever seen a child put under before. For me, they put the mask on, and which can be quite claustrophobic, but for her, that was a better choice than getting an IV. And so she had the mask on and she started to panic. So she was like breathing really heavily, and I saw this panicking, but then she went out. And when she went out, her eyes were wide open and terrified. So wide open eyes, kind of blank because now she's asleep, and just still, she looked dead. So it was traumatic for both of us. So this day did not go great. I should have prepared and had something in the slow cooker. I did not. It was a very early morning. I had to drive over an hour to get to this place as well. And it was not the greatest day. And we got takeout. So we did get pizza that night. And I'm fine with that. For the emergencies, this has to happen every now and again type of deal. I was not prepared. We got pizza. That's what happened. So it was a day. But the remainder of the week, I stayed on track, and we actually worked through some stuff in the freezer. So I will show that to you guys now, and then I'll give you a tour of the garden. So we ended up loving the cowboy candy on the chicken. So we did that again with some fresh beans. I also did some sourdough pizza rolls. If you're wanting this recipe, I will have it coming up in my next video for you guys. I also did some mac and cheese, and then we did some freezer meals for some easy night dinners. One was a lentil soup, and then one was a beef stew. All right, so we are now in the garden. I don't know if you can hear the cicadas and the excavator. There's somebody doing driveway work across the street, so it's a little noisy. I apologize. So right now in the garden, we are getting a lot of beans, tons of beans. It's been lovely. Fresh beans are our favorite, so we've been eating them a lot. And we're starting to get our cucumbers, both slicers as well as pickling cucumbers. So again, in my next video, you will see that I am pickling up some of those cucumbers, right? So putting them aside for us. And our cherry tomatoes are just starting to come. So those are lovely. Those always taste like candy. They're so good. Also, I know that you guys comment a lot that you love the garden, and I love that you love my garden. I love my garden quite a lot as well. If you're wanting to see more on my garden, you can go over and check out my Instagram. I'm trying to post more there, and I do focus more on gardening things. I do some baking things on there too, but I do a lot more gardening stuff on there. So you can go check me out on Instagram. It's Strawberry Moon Home. I will put the link in the description for you, and if you want to just go check that out. So I'm still waiting for my zucchini to come around. I haven't found any squash beetle eggs, which is good. And I've done the Dawn dish soap spray. And so hopefully that does wonders for this. But yeah, still no zucchini. So I've been picking off the flowers. Somebody mentioned to do that. So the male flowers I've been picking off. Hopefully we get some zucchini soon, because I love zucchini. So that would be nice. Lettuce and beets still getting lots of lettuce and making good salads out of that, and lots of beets as well. I don't pick the beet greens until later. I do love beets, and I also really love pickled beets. So I do kind of want these to grow into big honkin' beets so I can pickle them and preserve them. Here's our beans. You can see I got one right there. They need another picking. They've been doing really, really well, which is so nice because it was such a struggle getting these guys going. And then after, those are all the bush beans producing. After that, we'll start getting these guys, which are the vine beans. So, pole beans, sorry. So they'll start producing, which will be really nice, but the bush beans have been really lovely so far. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've got a pole bean trailing up to the top of my pear tree. It's just found its way up there. It goes all the way up to the top. So this is my son's corn. We always struggle to grow good corn, mainly because we don't have enough sun. We also don't have enough space. I believe you need in between 40 and 80 corn to get really good pollination, and we just don't have that space for that. He's got like 10 here. So we'll see. They don't look like really big cobs, but that's typical for us. He enjoys growing it, so we'll eat what comes off of here. I definitely need a better system for my tomatoes because these cages, despite the fact that they're really big, just fall over. So I need to figure out how to tie them up or something, because they end up they fall over and they break. They still produce, but I'm sure they would produce better if they weren't like this. So let me know what kind of system you guys use. Do you tie them up? Do you buy determinate ones so they don't get so tall? I think these might be beefsteak, but anyways, let me know what you guys do. I'm going to see if I can build something next year to tie these guys up to and hopefully end up with less chaos. There's the beginning of our cherries. So I actually think these are like, I can't remember the name of them, but they're like a black cherry. I'm not going to pick these because this is my daughter's garden and she very much wants to pick these. So I'm going to leave these for her for later. But you can see what's going on with my tomatoes here. These were all in cages and it's tomato chaos. I need to come in here and somehow stake them up or do something because these cages, they're old and they bend. So they've kind of just crumbled, I think, under the weight of these tomatoes. And growing up into another pear tree, my son has a pumpkin growing here and it's actually producing something because a couple of mine are not producing, just like the zucchini. So I'm glad this is producing, but it's growing way up into the pear tree along with this tomato that is also attached to the pear tree. So it's huge. That thing's like 10 feet tall. It's massive. Oh my goodness, I found one. And it's a little baby boo, which is hilarious because that's not what he planted. He planted orange pumpkins and he's got a little baby boo in there. So, I mean, I'll take it, but it's funny. The squirrels have been busy stealing our apples, and these are Granny Smith's. And we had a bunch more. They've taken them, so that we've resorted to some reusable produce bags that we've tied around them to hopefully keep the squirrels away. So hopefully this works because we've got a few more on here. We've got about 5, but my goodness, these squirrels, I tell you. I have also started harvesting elderberries. So we have tons of elderberry plants on this property, lots and lots. So this will be elderberry pie, it will be jam, it will be syrup, it'll go into a lot of different things. But we've got a lot of harvesting to do for these. And then there's these guys. This is the exact reason why I planted these plants here. These are rose hips. So I don't have a lot, but I've got a couple. I can't really do anything with these this year, but once it produces more, I'll have lots of rose hips for rose hip jam. Rose hips are very high in vitamin C. So, but you do have to cook them. Otherwise, I think it's these little, you see those spikies there? So they call them the itchy bum fruit because if you don't cook them, then it makes your bum itch after. So you do have to cook the rose hips. Something else we are excited about but are going to have to protect from the squirrels are these guys. I planted hazelnut bushes here about 4 years ago and they're finally starting to produce. I think we've got maybe half a dozen to a dozen nuts growing. So we had one nut that survived last year. So it would be really nice to get a handful of nuts in the fall and then, you know, eventually more. These bushes will grow up to 30 feet tall. Right now, they're about 6 feet at most. So they'll eventually produce a ton of nuts. But for right now, this is pretty exciting to have some nuts. Okay, so that's the garden and the meals that I provided this week for my family, just eating mainly from the pantry, except for that pizza. Anyways, as for the quitting early, so I'm going to tell you what has happened. So my husband's family and our family decided that we were going to go on a family vacation. And this happens to be in the middle of November, or at the very end of November. So this will cut my challenge off by about 2 weeks. So what we're doing is we're taking a trip down south, and all of us were able to book this trip with points, which was really cool. So all of our flights were already covered. And so this just makes it a really budget-friendly trip to be able to do. And it's so fun to be able to do it with family. So we're doing this family trip together, and I'm going to have to use the grocery store because we did get an Airbnb. So we will be cooking for ourselves because this is just cheaper anyways. But it does mean that I will be going to a grocery store and I will be buying that food for my family. So I will be ending this challenge 2 weeks earlier than what I had normally anticipated. So instead of doing the full 6 months, it's 5.5, which honestly, at this point, I think at 3 months, by the time I get to 5.5 months, that will be a big enough challenge for me. So we'll be, by that point, I'm not even sure if I'll have meat anymore. So we'll be happy to go for a vacation and buy us some groceries from the grocery store. Also, if you are looking for more content, I am over on Patreon. I will leave that link in the description for you. I do offer some more options there for content. So if you wanted to go give it a look, you're more than welcome to. Thank you everybody for joining me here today. I hope you're all having a wonderful summer, and I'll see you guys next time.